Buddhism in mainland China, and here in Hong Kong, is also reasserting itself, an ancient tradition reappearing in modern society. Buddhism is on the rise once again, partly perhaps because its positive attitude feels well suited to an emerging superpower. Particularly popular is the Zen form of Buddhism. Little surprise given that Zen, although now typically associated with Japan, started off life in China. And I'm going to explore Zen in one of the places in the world where it is most vigorous: Hong Kong. Our sixth wonder is the giant Buddha that overlooks this great Asian city. This mammoth bronze statue was completed in 1993. It symbolises the relationship between man and nature, people and religion.
Well, the building of the giant Buddha in Hong Kong was a reassertion of an old Buddhist tradition of constructing massive Buddhist images. And the monks who initiated the project in Hong Kong had visited Japan, and they'd visited various sites in mainland China and seen medieval massive images of Buddhas. And this was something they were trying to recreate in Lantau.
It's the only statue of Buddha to face north towards Beijing, and is named Jiantan, after the Temple of Heaven in that city. When Buddhism first starts out, it seems that people actively choose not to represent the Buddha figuratively. But then, as the philosophy passes through regions like Afghanistan, which had a really strong Greek influence, thanks to the invasion of Alexander the Great, it becomes the done thing to represent the Buddha in human form. Now, once the belief system enters China, a new tradition gains popularity, not just to represent the Buddha in human form, but to do so on a monumental scale. And that's an art form that's now being revived here in Hong Kong. Everything about this statue means something. The Buddha is sitting in a lotus position, which shows that he was like the beauty of a lotus flower emerging from the muddy waters of a pond. His face is that beautiful round shape, which is supposed to be a reflection of the perfection of the moon. And his head is domed, which tells us just how wise he is. His hands are interesting because the right hand is raised in a gesture of blessing. This is the Buddha's vow that he will release the entire world from its suffering. And on his chest, he's got that so-called swastika symbol. Now, of course, the swastika was unfortunately appropriated by the Nazis, even though they got it the wrong way round. But what it actually means is the power of the universe. So this tells us that the Buddha's compassion and wisdom is available to all. The Buddha statue sits on a lotus throne on top of an altar. It's surrounded by 6 smaller bronze statues. They're shown offering gifts like fruit and incense, gifts that symbolise different aspects of Buddhist philosophy, all virtues which are necessary to achieve enlightenment. The giant Buddha is part of the Po Lin monastery and temple complex, set up nearly 100 years ago by 3 Zen masters. Zen has developed as a part of Mahayana Buddhism, the school of Buddhism practiced in China and other northern Asian countries. Zen Buddhists believe that all people have the qualities that the Buddha had, and emphasise that these can be developed and were not unique to the Buddha only. The aim of Zen is to discover this quality within each person through meditation and practice of the Buddha's teachings. The ultimate goal is to become a completely enlightened Buddha. Meditation has always been central to Buddhism, but here in China, a new brand of meditation was born. It took its name from a Sanskrit word, dhyana, which is actually very hard to translate, but means a kind of alert, productive state of mind. In China, it was called Chan, and when it travels to Japan, it becomes Zen.
It's a school of Buddhism which lays enormous emphasis on certain kinds of meditative practice. What you try to do is purely to empty your mind. It has a sort of ideology that rational thought is not going to get you to enlightenment or nirvana.
It's practiced here in a small secluded monastery minutes away from the giant Buddha. Formal, silent meditation is central to Zen and is practiced by both the laity and the ordained together.
Some people find the concept of Zen quite difficult to grasp. So how would you define it?
So Zen means we never separate our life and our practice. Zen is like 24 hours when you are standing, sitting, walking, lying down.
So never separate. Our everyday life and our practice cannot separate. It's not two things. Zen also means inside, our mind, and outside the object. Inside, outside, boom, become one. That's Zen.
So if you're not making that separation between Zen practice and everyday life, does that mean that when you do everything, when you sweep the floor or prepare food or clean something, that actually is an act of Zen itself?
Zen means what are you doing now, So somebody might get enlightenment while they're eating meal, washing bowl. All these we designed to help people to be in the moment. And maybe at that moment your mind become clear and your life become clear.
This is called water bowl meditation, and the purpose is to carry the water without spilling a single drop. Now, the idea is that you can do this through the application of Zen, because if you think you're carrying a bowl of water, then you're bound to shake and lose some. But if you clear your mind completely, you will complete the task successfully.
In the West, a lot of people have heard of Zen. It is something that's quite popular. Do you think that's partly because people's lives are so demanding and Zen offers a kind of a way out from that?
I think not only the West are very busy, now Asia is more busy.
It's true.
It's very money orientated. Everybody worry about the living. So it's very important our mind know how to relax and to be living at this moment and to keep clear. So if you can live in this present, even there's some problem up here, it's okay. You have this clear mind and you are not agitated. I think these are very important practice for everybody.
Zen practitioners today don't like to use specific words to limit what Zen is. But if you want to find a definition for the practice, probably as close as you'll get, is that this is something that really believes in the power of intuition and in a kind of productive simplicity. And I can see that cherishing intuition, living for the moment, living day by day with a clear mind is a very productive way to spend your time.
Perhaps it explains why, of all brands of Buddhism, Zen has become particularly attractive to those who live in our demanding 21st century. Zen, and its ancestor Chan, is a very practical form of Buddhist wisdom. It encourages a process of rediscovery by living simply. The Zen tradition emphasises that enlightenment is possible here and now. Is it then very different from other forms of Buddhism?
Zen means pointing directly to our mind. Means right now, wake up, and be clear. What are you doing now? Actually, our mind is not complicated. It's our thinking make our life very complicated. So Zen is a tool to help us to bring back our mind to our everyday life and be simple.
Zen, like all Buddhist practice, turns philosophy into a tool to help in day-to-day life. Meditation is used to bring about a tangible outcome, either in the understanding of the world or in our ability to deal with it and with the suffering we see all around and feel within us.
One thing that struck me is that whatever the regional variations of Buddhism, issues of suffering are right at the core of the philosophy. Now, that is really interesting because in general, over the last 2,500 years, cultures of the East have actually been very unabashed about suffering, but they don't mind putting it centre stage. Whereas in the West, these are issues that we can sometimes try to brush under the carpet. In the modern age, for instance, we've been accused of trying to cheat death itself. But just look at that statue. There's the Buddha promising to deal with all the suffering in the world. So it does make you wonder what future Buddhism has as a global belief system. What's going to happen when ideas of the East, which put suffering to the fore, start to take root in the West?